Welcome friends, this is Vishal Singh and today we are going to discuss third topic in our segment of object-oriented programming, that is visibility means public, private and protected keywords. So let's start. So simply declare the PHP tags and what we are going to do is visibility which is public, protected, private. Okay, so guys, we have a class name visible. Let's say its name is visible, and we declare three properties, namely with the keyword public, dollar public, private, dollar private, protected, dollar protected. Okay, guys. So these are our three properties, namely public, private, and protected. And thus we declare three functions. Name, we say it public key, and we give it a parameter value. Of value. This is code, and we give it like this 1, 2. Just changing the keywords, make it private member function, and this is protected member functions. And let's change its name public key to private key, and let's just change its name protected key. Okay, so this is our functions layer. Let's start accessing these functions. Object, make object of the first class visible is equal to new keyword. We use new keyword for the instantiation. Now say visible, and access first property public, and here we may give the function definition like $this public is equal to $value, name same, private is equal to value, and then protected is equal to value. Echo, then we echo the values of all these functions. $this public dot and $this protect private first. Okay, and then we give it the values, and third one is $this protected. Okay, so we give it this three values, and we copy paste the definition so that we may able to recognize whether this private key function is able to work or not. Okay, I'll be showing you pictures of this at the end, how we can differentiate it easily. Okay, that's it. So first property is being accessed by me, that is for the public property, which is having a visible key. Public is equal to name, is a Vishal. So let's see whether we can access it or not. Yes, we can access it. There's no error. So again. Now let's check whether we can access private property or not. Here we may get a yes. Cannot access private property visible, line number 30. Yes, here we cannot access this. Means the object of the visible class can access public property but not private property. Okay, this is inaccessible. Now let's check whether the protected property is accessible or not. Okay, yeah, no, cannot access protected property, so we cannot access protected property here. Okay guys, so what does it mean? It means that if we declare something private, the object instantiation, that is this instantiated object cannot access these private or protected properties. These private and protected properties can only be handled by these functions. So by not being accessible outside this, the security of these private and protected increases. That's why we have put restriction on these two properties. Okay, so this is done. Now let's check out whether the functions of these properties are accessible or not. Dollar object visible. Okay guys, so we access the public key here and give it to the value Vishal Bhasin. Okay, now let's check out whether we get anything or not. Yes, we are getting Vishal Bhasin 3 times, so it means we are having this echo working nicely. Now let's check out whether the private or protected function are accessible or not. Okay, to just control D. Firstly, off this. I will delete it. So second is the private key. Private key, and let's refresh it. Call to the private method visible from the context list. It means private method is not accessible here. So we conclude here that no private property or no private method can be accessed by the object of this visible. Now we change it to private to the protected one. Private to protected one. Okay, so it also gives the fatal error, call to the protected method visible. So we conclude neither private or protected ones are accessible, nor private or protected member functions are accessible by the object. Okay, so this is very much clear. Now we just delete all these things and go to the second class and inherit that class. This is, we can name this class as visible2. Visible2 extends visible. Okay, extends visible. And now let's check out whether the functions are available or not. Now we instantiate object underscore visible2 is equal to new keyword, and then we write it visible2. Now we try to access the methods first, whether the methods are accessible or not. So dollar object visible2 accesses public and give its value Vishal. So whether it is accessible or not, yes, it is accessible. No error is being defined here. Or we can also declare one function here. Function. We name it access1, access on, and something like this. And we may justify $this public, okay, echo, so that we may able to know call this methods and check it out whether they are accessible or not. This method will always be accessible by the visible to. So simply we do object underscore visible to access on and we give it some value, but this value is not required now. Later on, later stage we'll be using the value. So see whether this is accessing the public or not. We just give it the value. Dollar this public means the value of the public is not being here, so we need to give the value to this. Okay, is equal to dollar value and let's check it out whether it's functioning or not. We shall, yes, it's functioning. So dollar this public value is being accessible means this public variable can be used here as well. And now we use the private here and see what happens. Yes, private variable is also accessed here, and we check out the protected one and see what happens. Yes, protected variable is also being here, but if we try to access all those public protected by the object here, we may get different results. Like if we are accessing public here, we are getting no error. If we try to access private here, we may get a, so let's see what error we may get. This says undefined property private. This means that private property is being inherited here, but the value is being nullified here. But the when the public property was defined here, this object can access the public property, and whatever the value was already there, it knows that value is there. But in the case of private, the value is undefined, means it is not able to recognize the value. If we give some value here to the property like Vishal, and just then this is able to access this. Then we do the protected one, cannot access the protected property. So we can here conclude that public property can be accessed via function root. It means that all the properties are inherited here, whether public, private or protected. All these properties are accessed via inheritance. But public can be accessed by the child object, private can be defined by the child object, and protected cannot be accessed by the child object. Now let's check out the functions, whether the public, private or protected functions are accessible here or not. We may define a keyword parent so that it may recognize that parent function is being called here. So we may see that public key and right here Vishal, the same, and we just access this functionality. Dollar object visible to access on, and here we write Vishal, the same. Okay, twice we have written the same thing, so we may here write dollar value. So this dollar value may act like Vishal will simply pass here, and this dollar value will be here, and this result will be produced. Most likely the public function is being inherited here and can be accessed very easily. Yes, as I said, that public can be accessed very easily. Now we check out the private here. What happens to the private key? No, call to the private method is not accessible here, it means private, whether private methods are here. Private methods can only be accessed within the class. Private methods cannot be inherited by the child class. Private method will only be used within the class only. Now we check out the protected way. Protected key, and we see yes. Protected can be inherited. Public is inherited, but private cannot be inherited by the child. It is only accessed within the class here. Likewise, public keyword, public member variable can be accessed by both. Private can be accessed via the function root. Protected can be accessed by the function root, but private and protected are not accessible by the object. Now we try to access these properties directly by the object. Okay. So firstly we say that public key here, we may pass any value, Vishal Singh. We see what happens. Yes, it is accessible. We see that public, if the child object can access the method here directly. Now we change it to the private key. We see private cannot be accessed here. A private cannot be accessed directly by the child object and cannot be inherited or in the child functionality. In the child class, private cannot be inherited even. And we just check out here protected. And it says that protected cannot be accessed. So we may draw out some conclusion here. If we say that something is private, public, protected, okay, and we will go down there, same class object, okay, child class object, okay, then inheritance. So we may check it out what this table will make out. Same class object in the private, no, private property or private function cannot be accessed by the same class. Same class object, public property and public method, yes, same class object can access both public property and public variable. And protected same class object, whether protected variable or protected method, no, both cannot be accessed here. Child class object cannot access the method, no, but it can access variable. If variable is defined, it can access the variable. Public method and variable both are accessed here, yes, yes. Protected, no, protected method is not accessed or protected variable is not accessed by the child class object. Now we check it out the inheritance. Yes, total inheritance is here. In the case of private, there is no inheritance. Private is only used within that class, means if the private method is here, this private method can only be used within the class, not outside the class. Now if we check out public, yes, it is inherited. And if we check out the private, yes, it is inherited. So we can say that same class object, private, no, direct access is not available. Whether via the function root we can access the private variables, and private function cannot be accessed. Public cannot be accessed. Public is yes, public is accessed. Variable and methods both. Protected, no, cannot be accessed. Child object private variable is yes, it can be accessed, but it shows undefined. If you define the private object, then it can be used inside that, but a method will never be used. Method is used within the that class only. Variable and method both can be accessed. Protected here, child class cannot access whether it's protected property or protected method of the parent class. Inheritance, there is no inheritance in the private case, it is within the that class only, yes. And in the case of protected, yes, inheritance is there. Now I would like to show you one picture of these three. Now we can just see this: private, protected, and public. Public is something like outside the boundary of the house, that guy is roaming around the streets or doing whatever he wants. But the child that is inside the courtyard or in playing in the garden is not allowed to go in the public. So it has some restrictions that it can play. It has the level field playing, but cannot go to the outside. And private is something like a child inside the house or toddler inside the house. So maximum restrictions are on the private, then some restrictions are on the protected, then totally free is the public keyword, or those function or variable using the visibility public are totally free. So guys, thank you for listening.